Good afternoon, Danny. So it's exam season here in China, and it is stressful, particularly for Chinese high school students who are now writing the college entrance examination. But you're an engineer. I don't need to tell you how stressful exams are. No doubt you have written big finals or midterms and are constantly thinking of the worst case scenario. But what is the worst case scenario? Will you get a C? Will you fail the exam? Maybe you will fail the entire course. Today I will tell you the worst case scenario is this. This is Hong Xiuquan, and he had to write an exam, much like yourself. But it wasn't just any exam, it was the Imperial Civil Service exam, an examination the Qing dynasty puts out for those who want to work in the government. But this is not just a normal civil exam, it's the Godzilla of exams. For this exam, eager examinees would walk into a private examination no larger than the size of a big closet, and then they would write the exam for 3 days. And I don't mean they would do like section 1 for a few hours, go home, take a nap, sleep, come back the next day, and then do section 2 for 3 days. No, I mean they would write the exam for 3 days straight, like 3 days and nights in the closet, writing the exam. Now, if these conditions sound a little inhumane to you, that's because they are. Death was not uncommon during these examinations. Vigilators would be keeping an eye out for examinees that would pass out or die during the exam. The bodies would then be carried out in the night so they wouldn't spook the other examinees. This is the terrifying situation that Hong Xiuquan had spent years preparing for. But he was no fool. He knew how awful it would be, how hard he would have to work. He was prepared to do all that it takes to carve out a better life for himself. So he walks into the exam room with his chin up and fails miserably. So what does he do after he fails? Falls into depression, locks himself in his room, and listens to angsty music, as any bad student would, or any failed student. But he picks himself up, brushes his books, and tries again, and studies harder and harder, and fails again and again and again. On the fourth time, his depression is so bad, he isolates himself in his room. And when he finally comes out, he kills 20 million people. Not kidding. I'm simplifying a long story here, but while locked away, he starts hallucinating that he's actually the son of God, and the little brother of Jesus, and that he's holy, a Messiah. He launches a rebellion to make China a Christian kingdom under God, which in his mind meant under him. He raises an army of hundreds and thousands of angry peasants and starts a rebellion that kills 20 million people. This Taiping rebellion was brutal, but it was the civilians that paid the price. Often prolonged battles resulted in starvation. Cities that fell often resulted in pillaging and rape by the new conqueror, sometimes by the rebels and sometimes by the empire. Hong Xiuquan would take the city and kill anyone loyal to the empire. The empire would eventually take the city back and kill anyone loyal to Hong Xiuquan. With the help of the British and the French, the Qing eventually pushed back Hong Xiuquan, and he died. He died in his decaying capital, with his people starving. So, maybe you will fail the exam. Maybe you will fail the course. But 20 million people aren't going to die. So it's not as bad as it could be. If Hong Xiuquan's spiral into insanity and violence tells us anything, it's that no matter how bad the exams are, the true terror is not the exam itself, but rather how the stress and pressure change us. Danny, I will see you on Thursday.